Well, hey, wasn't last night so much fun? We had a wild and crazy night. Can you believe everything that happened? And then you got home and you filled yourself with some sugar and some pop and some chips, and then tried to go to sleep potentially. Did anybody get like more than 3 hours of sleep last night? I hope so. You got a big day ahead of you. So last night we had the band happening, we had me speaking about labels, and we started talking about labels, and last night we learned that the only person that can label you is the person that made you, the person that owns you, and the person that purchased you. And that is Jesus. So we still want to go a little bit deeper and learn what labels are all about, and just how we use labels in our everyday life. So here's what I want you to do this morning. You're sitting around with your group, and I want you to go to your host home and don't just tear through their house, but I want you to go and ask, and I want you to go and look in their pantry and look in their fridge and look around the stuff that you maybe were eating last night. Like, my house is pretty healthy, so I have crispy minis. That's what I could eat for a snack. My wife doesn't let me eat much more than that. And Diet Coke, like, see, this has a label on it. But she does let me have my favorite thing in the world, which is some sriracha, some hot sauce, some rooster sauce. And it's so good, you can eat it right from the bottle, really. But I want you to find what you have at your house and bring it back to you, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about labels. So are you ready? Go and get it. All right, are you back? You got your label, you got your thing that you think is wild and crazy. Maybe if you wanted, you could have pulled up something wild and crazy on your phone that is just like this random product, like bacon toothpaste. So you could do that quickly right now. That's a fast search. But I got my product. My favorite one is my rooster sauce, my hot sauce. And it's got a label, and half of it is in probably Chinese or Mandarin or Thai or something that I can't read. But the one thing that really stands out to me about my label is that it says hot. I learned that when I ate it. But they spent a lot of time trying to figure out what they would put on this label. And I don't totally understand everything, but the one thing I know is that it draws me in and wants me to eat it, and it lets me know with the big jagged lines that are all over it that this is probably hot on the inside. And you can look at your labels, and you're gonna talk about this in a minute, and each one of the labels you chose is different. My Coke label is a lot more simple than the label I had on my hot sauce. And as you look at them, it kind of begs the question, why did the person that made them choose that label? And I got thinking about it a little bit more, and I got thinking, I wonder how much time it took someone to decide to make the Coke label like it was, or to make the hot sauce label like it was. And beyond time, I wonder how much money they paid to design that label. Probably thousands and thousands of dollars to design a label that would be with that product forever. And the thing I'm learning is that the label on the outside tries to do the best job that it can to describe the product on the inside. So I want you to take a few minutes as a group and go around and look at your labels and talk about a few things that are distinct. Because when you look, the hot sauce label and the Coke label are a lot different than each other. Both have wonderful goodness inside of them, but their outside labels are a lot different. So talk about how what's on the outside of the label reflects the product on the inside of the label. Talk about why they chose to make it that way, and how it maybe grabs your attention and why you chose that label for your product. All right, ready? I'm gonna give you a few minutes to go and do that, so go and choose your label. So when you look at the two labels, the hot sauce and the Coke bottle, they're incredibly different. And each one does a good job at describing the deliciousness that lies inside each thing. But they both have very different labels on them. And what I want you to figure out is what makes what you chose unique. And why do you think that people spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours designing a label that would be attractive to people and that would describe accurately what's on the inside? So I want you to go and take a few minutes with your small group and talk about the product that you chose and how the label on the outside describes what's on the inside. Are you ready? Go. All right, and we're back. So you have maybe spent lots of time talking about food, but why not? Who doesn't love food? But I thought we'd kind of change gears and maybe put our food to the side. After we're finished, we can take our food and put it back in our host home's closets or cabinets or fridges so that we don't have to make a big mess and we don't leave their things out to spoil. But as we change gears, I thought we'd kind of talk about the labels we would want to put on us. And we talked about how nobody else gets to label us last night. But let's just say, let's use our imagination. If you were gonna put a label on yourself, what would it look like? If someone was gonna put a label on you, let's say you, because last night we learned that nobody else is allowed to put a label on you except the person who made you, the person who bought you, and the person who owns you. So let's say you were gonna put a label on you. What would you want that label to look like? We looked at all the food and you spent lots of time looking at labels. But if you were gonna put a label on you, what would it look like? Would it be bright colors? Would it have big pictures, kind of like a Jones soda bottle? Maybe you had one of those at your house. Or would it have no pictures at all? Would it just be a whole bunch of lines? What words would you use? Would you use crazy? Would you use zany? Would you use fun? Would you use loving? Would you use caring? There's just so many things that could go on your label. But remember, what's the purpose of a label? The purpose of a label is to describe what's on the inside of the product. So if you're trying to put a label on you that describes who you are and what is on the inside of you, what would you do? And your small group leaders have a sheet that's gonna help you walk through this process to think about what kind of label you would build for yourself. And maybe you get to draw it if you're a person that wants to draw. Maybe you just wanna write out the words that are on your label if you've never ever done that before. But we want you to think about, if this is you and you're putting a label on you, what would you put on? And maybe you've never ever thought about that before, but like the labels that people put on their Coke or on their hot sauce, if you don't think about it, how is it gonna accurately reflect what's on the inside? They spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours developing these labels. So we wanna take even 10 or 15 minutes now for you to think about a label that you might put on yourself. So your leaders are gonna give you a sheet that's gonna help you walk through a design for a label that is perfectly you. Ready? Go. So you just spent some time working through your labels with your leader. And that is so important. We want you to hang on to that sheet and keep it, because that's time you took to think about what you are really like on the inside and how you want other people to see you from the outside. So the other thing we want you to do is learn some other labels for yourself. And tonight we're gonna be back together in a few hours and we're gonna have some more fun and we're gonna sing some more together, and we're gonna play some more wild and crazy games that everybody on our team has dreamed up for you. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind us of a couple things. So last night again, we learned that the only person that gets to put a label on you is the person that made you, the person that owns you, and the person that purchased you. So we learned that that person was Jesus. So Jesus is the only person that gets to put a label on us. So we haven't really talked a whole lot yet. We talked that nobody else could put labels on us but Jesus. We talked about the labels that we might put on ourselves if we were able to. But tonight we're gonna talk about the labels that Jesus puts on us. And on your My Life shirt, I mentioned this last night because it's really important. You have a little label that says, I am, with a blank underneath it. I don't want you to do anything with that label yet. But the excitement is building because tonight you will find out what you get to do with your My Life shirt to make it finished and complete. So tonight we're gonna come back together in just a few hours and learn about the labels that Jesus puts on us and what that means for our entire life. So I hope you guys have an amazing afternoon hanging out with your small group leaders and your friends. Be sure to thank your host homes and make sure you leave it clean and tidy. They just love you for that. But you guys have a great afternoon. I will see you in a few hours for an amazing night together for our final session of My Life 2013.